All right, here's a quick video guide to Git. Git is the version control software we're going to be using this semester, and what it's going to do is keep the entire history of all of our files forever. So that, say we're working on a program and then we realize the version we had yesterday was way better, we'll be able to get back the version from yesterday. Now what's cool about Git is it doesn't require you to be using the internet at all. It can be all done locally. And in fact, what I'm going to demo right here is just all on my own computer. So here's how it works. So let's suppose we have a bunch of recipes well, we're going to create them now. We'll just throw them together real quick. So let's start with Kung Pao Tofu. Okay. And let's say that this recipe, we're just going to list ingredients for now. It has some Szechuan peppers, it has peanuts, it has tofu, it has kung, it has pao, and that's that. And then let's say we also want to create a recipe, I forget what did I say, basil chili, maybe? I'll look at my script. Maybe, I'll just go with it, whatever, close enough. So it has basil, chili, not chile, I don't know. And there you go, that's this recipe, okay. Then maybe we have some seitan recipes. So we had smoky, carrot, seitan, slaw. And let's say that caro, nope, it's important, spelling. So we will do carrot, seitan, agave, liquid smoke, etc. Okay, and then finally we'll have one last recipe, which will be boiled seitan. Okay, this is probably not going to be very good. Water, seitan, good. No, doesn't matter. Okay, it's there, right? Yes. Okay, so now let's start doing the Git part. What we're going to do then is we are going to, well, this is command Git, where there's a bunch of different stuff here you can do. You can add, bisect, branch, check out, clone, da-da-da-da-da, and I'm just going to show you the most important commands for Git today. So the one we're going to use first is git init, which is create an empty Git repository. All right, and the idea here is it's a safe, in a sense, metaphorically, that can hold all of the files in the current directory and all of their subdirectories, and the history thereof, right? So, for example, if I did git init while I'm in this directory, I would be creating a repository only of tofu recipes. By doing it here, it's every recipe I want to do. If I did it here, it would be all the files in my home directory, but I just want to do recipes today. So let's do git init. Okay. So every time this was appearing, by the way, that was me pressing Control-C out of old habits to import, but whatever. All right. So now what we're going to do is git init, and we press enter, and it says initialized empty Git repository. So now there exists a repository. Okay, great. What does that mean? Well, if I do ls, for example, which is listing files, there's no evidence that anything has happened, other than I can tell you that secretly it has. So let's start by adding a file to our repository. So let's go Kung Pao Tofu, and we add the file. Now at this point, it is important to note that we have not put anything out, we have not made a safe copy of anything yet. Add, the only thing it does, as we'll soon see, is tells Git to be aware that this file exists. Okay? And that's one thing that people often find a little confusing about Git. So we can see what this command did by doing Git Status. Okay? This command is your go-to to understand what Git is thinking right now, right? So currently, what Git is thinking, okay, well, there's some stuff here we haven't really talked about. Don't worry about it for now. But here it says there are some changes to be committed, right? In particular, there is this new file that Git has on its radar. Because we said add Kung Pao Tofu, now Git's thinking about Kung Pao Tofu. And then there's some other files, which you guys know about. You saw me create them. There's our seitan recipes, our basil chili tofu recipe. But at the moment, Git's not really thinking about these because we haven't said git add. Okay? Well, let's make Git think about our other recipe. So if we do that, and now say git status, we'll see there are two files on Git's list of things that it cares about. Okay? Now let's do something interesting. Let's do Git Commit. Okay? And I'm going to put a little message here that's going to describe what I'm doing right now for my later use, as we'll see. So I'm going to say Git Commit added tofu recipes. And once I've done that, it now creates a secret safe copy. In fact, I'll do a little visual behind me. So what I'm going to do is, so this is going to be ff64. All right. So this right here is a safe copy of both of those recipes. And I'm going to go stick it on the wall over here. And it's there forever, all right? As far as we're concerned, this poster is never going to come off the wall. And if I want to know what my recipes were like on January 20th at 11:15 a.m., this will be the place to go look, all right? I haven't written the whole thing down. So this command I've just done here, git log, it basically shows a record of every time we've taken files and put them in our safe, okay? So if you'd like to summarize what we've done so far, the add command says, hey Git, there's a file I'm going to want to put in the safe, right? Commit says, take all the files that someone has requested to put in the safe and now actually compile them all together and stick them in the safe. Git log lets us list every time someone puts something on the wall. And the reason I wrote ff64, I don't know if it's visible on the webcam, on the wall. I mean, I'm not even sure if I'm blocking it. But the reason I've done ff64 here is because each commit is given a special ID. So it's like whenever you deposit something at a bank, presumably they mark it in some way so you can get it back in a safety deposit box. There's a number on it or whatever. So this is the equivalent of that. That is the number where we put all these, like of the box where we put all these files. We can actually look inside of the box using the git show command. And to do that, I'll say git show, and I'll say take me to box number ff64b43a55 da-da-da. And when we look inside of that box, we see that the things that someone put in that box were, one, a basil chili tofu recipe, which was basil, chili, and tofu. And the other was kung pao tofu, which was these 5 ingredients, right? So that is the heart of Git. So the somewhat tortured analogy that I have in the Git guide is it's like taking a panoramic photo on your camera, where every time you say add, well, I can't really demo it here because I'm too small in the corner of your screen, but the idea is if you've ever done a panoramic photo, you have to take like an individual picture and kind of pan around, and then you finally say, I'm done, and then it's committed, compiled into one picture, and then put in your gallery, right? Just so here. Our panorama, we took a little picture of basil chili tofu, a little picture of kung pao tofu, and then we bound them together with the commit command. Okay, so now let's see what else we can do with Git. All right, I'm going to start by showing Git Status. So if you look at Git Status, you will see that unlike before, these are no longer listed. Why? Well, because we haven't started building a new picture that we're going to put in our box, right? Or on the wall here, or whatever metaphor you like. So let's say I want to modify my kung pao tofu recipe, and I want to add bok choy, which is a bad idea, by the way. It does not go with this. But hey, we're going to try it out. So I save it, and then I say, let's add kung pao tofu. So at this point, what I've done is I've taken a new picture of the new kung pao tofu recipe, and now I want to take that picture and put it in my safe box for safekeeping. So I'm going to say added bok choy to kung pao tofu. Okay. And now when I do git log, I see there are 2 commits, right? So if we want to use our wall over here as a visual metaphor for what's going on inside of Git, this commit has E932 at the beginning of its ID. So I'll stick that down here, and I'll say, well, this was the original recipe, this is the new and improved recipe, and here I can see the whole history, okay? And again, if I do git status, I will see that, okay, there's nothing else for Git to do. I'll note also, by the way, that it keeps saying Satan's untracked. It's just reminding us that, hey, by the way, there's this whole other type of recipe that you've never put in the secret box over here, right? So far, I guess this recipe contains kung pao tofu, it contains basil chili tofu. This one only has kung pao tofu, but if I wanted, it's all part of one stream, but the seitan recipes right there are not on the wall, okay? So it's just reminding me of that fact. All right, here's the last part of Git that we care about for this part of the guide, which is that let's suppose we later decide that this recipe is gross, and this is the one we should really be going with, okay? Well, what I'm gonna do is, you might be tempted to think that, well, we'll just throw this piece of paper away, but that's not how Git works. With Git, you keep all of your files forever. Once you commit something, it's there for safekeeping, so that, let's suppose you decide bok choy is gross, but then later decide, actually, I like it. You want to be able to have the whole history of everything you ever did, all right? So let's make that more clear. Let's suppose we want to go back to our original recipe. One thing I could do is go into the file, manually remove back bok choy, But as you guys know, as programmers, sometimes the changes you made were really complicated. You don't want to go through like 40 files and undo all this stuff. So instead, there's a command called checkout that we can use to say, I want the old stuff back, all right? So let's say we say git log here. I want this version of my recipes back. So I'm just gonna say git checkout this here, and then say tofu. So we can actually look inside of our file. Let's use our text editor. We'll look at Kung Pao Tofu, and we'll see that that gross bok choy is just gone. Thank goodness, it was not good. So the checkout command is actually gone and restored everything to the way it was then. Now if we do git status, we'll actually see that it says that the recipe has been modified. And what it's saying there is simply that, well, you've taken bok choy back out. So if we now want to record that this is the new best recipe, we'll say took bok choy back out. Gross, right? And now if I do git log, I can see there was an initial recipe, then I added bok choy, then I took bok choy back out. And in fact, I can show that whereas this commit, the thing it did was added bok choy, right? This is what that commit's all about. This commit right here, oops, git log. This commit right here, the most recent one, what it did was took bok choy back out. Okay, and I guess in terms of my visual metaphor over here, we'll note that git log has added 370b. Okay. So now I have the sequence of 3 recipes, right? And if this is to my eternal shame in a way, right? Like I've put this away forever if anybody wants to. If I want to go look, I can see that I had the bad idea of putting bok choy in. And that's nice because then I can go back if I so choose. All right, that was our quick look at Git. Hope it was helpful.